I've bought and sold multiple 8-figure businesses. I've worked with billionaires. I've seen CEOs rise and fall. And I'm going to tell you the brutal truth that separates the great ones from everyone else. And it's not what you think. I'm Andy Dunning, and what I'm about to share with you will either inspire you or it's just going to crush your dreams. And there's nowhere in between on this one. Look, everybody wants to know what the secret is to being a great CEO. They think it's all about strategy or vision or charisma. Man, that's all BS. The brutal truth is it's much harder than that. And most people can't handle it. That's why most people will never make a great CEO. Let me start by destroying the biggest lie in business. Everybody thinks it's being a great CEO is about being smart, being the smartest person in the room, having all the answers, making the perfect decision all the time. Man, that's complete garbage. I've sat at a dinner table with billionaires. I've sat in rooms with people worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I learned? They're not the smartest people in the room. They're not the most talented. They don't have some secret knowledge that the rest of us don't have. Here's what they do have. They're willing to do what everyone else won't do. They're willing to sacrifice what everyone else won't sacrifice. They're willing to endure what everyone else won't endure. And that brings me to the brutal truth that separates great CEOs from everyone else. Here it is. The brutal truth that separates great CEOs from the rest. Great CEOs are willing to be hated for doing the right thing. That's it. The difference, while everyone else is trying to be liked, trying to be popular, trying to make everybody happy, a great CEO is willing to make that hard decision that everybody else is afraid to make. Let me give you some examples from my own business. I had a manager who had been with the company for about 8 years. Great guy, man, everybody loved him, but he wasn't performing. His department was consistently missing their targets. His team was completely underperforming, and it was affecting our entire organization. Everybody told me, give him more time. He's a good guy. He's been here forever. I fired him, and guess what happened? Half the company thought I was a complete, heartless, unempathetic bastard. But his replacement, man, they turned it around in 6 months, and now we're hitting record numbers. Great CEOs make decisions based on what's right for the business, not what's right for the popular culture. The culture decision. When I tell people, if you're not willing to work 80 hours a week, you're just a part-timer. They think I'm absolutely crazy for this. They think I'm some type of slave driver. But here's the truth. I'd rather have 300 people who are obsessed with our vision than 500 people who are just there collecting a paycheck. Great CEOs understand that culture isn't about everyone being comfortable. Culture is about attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people away from the company. The investment decision. Last year, I made a decision to invest in a new software program, a new technology on tracking our inventory at the auction. My CFO said it wasn't a good decision. My board said wait. My advisors all told me to wait. I did it anyways. Why? Because I could see 3 moves ahead of where they were. I could see where the industry was going, and I knew we needed to be there first. That investment has now generated multiple new revenue streams for our company. But for 6 months, everybody thought I was reckless. Great CEOs, they're willing to do the wrong thing for a short period of time to prove that it is right for the long term. This is why most people can't handle the truth. Now let me tell you why most people can't handle the truth. It's because being hated is painful. Being criticized is painful. Being misunderstood is just painful. Most people would rather be liked and mediocre than hated and great. Most people would rather make a popular decision that feels good than hard decisions that get great results. The need to be liked. Here's what I learned the hard way. The moment that you start making decisions based on what people think about you, you stop being a leader and you just become a follower. When I sold my first company, I stayed on with the new owners because I believed in what they were doing. But it was within less than a year of being there, I realized they were making decisions based on what was popular for the company, not what was right for the company. They were afraid to fire underperformers. They were changing the culture within the business itself that made it popular when they bought it. There was a reason they came in and bought it. They were afraid to implement new systems. They were afraid to upset the people that were there. They were afraid to push for the high standards that we had in place when we were there because they did not want a conflict. And you know what happened once they did that? The company started declining. Morale actually started to get worse, not better. Performance dropped. Good people started leaving the company because they lowered their standards. The fear of conflict. A great CEO understands that conflict isn't the enemy. Avoiding conflict is the enemy. When I have to tell someone their performance isn't acceptable, it's not a comfortable situation. When I have to tell a department they need to completely change how they operate, man, it's not fun. When I have to tell the team we're taking a risk that they don't understand, it's never an easy conversation. But you know what's worse than temporary conflict? It's permanent mediocrity. This is the misunderstanding of leadership. Most people think leadership is about being inspiring and motivational and all the time. That's just only part of it. Real leadership is making the decisions that other people can't or won't make. Real leadership is about taking responsibility for the outcome, even when the outcome are unpopular. When I tell my team we're implementing a new system that's going to require more work in the short term, I'm not trying to be their friend. I'm trying to position us to win in the long term. And this is the cost of being a great CEO. Let me be brutally honest with you about the cost of being a great CEO, because if you're not willing to pay the price, you should just stop pretending that you want to be great. It's loneliness at the top. Being a great CEO is lonely. I mean, really lonely. You can't be best friends with your employees because sometimes you have to make decisions that are going to hurt them. You can't share your fears and your doubts because people need to see you be strong. I've got 300 plus employees depending on me to make the right decisions every day. I've got a team that is trusting me to make money for this company to be able to lead it. I've got customers that are relying on us to deliver each and every day. Some nights I go home with the weight of all this responsibility crushing in on me, but man, that's the price you pay for leadership. When you're making hard decisions, you're going to be criticized constantly. Employees think you're too demanding. Competitors will say, man, this guy's ruthless. Even your friends and family will question, why is he doing this way? Why are his methods the way they are? I've been called everything from a slave driver to a heartless businessman. You know what I call myself? I call myself successful. When you constantly make hard decisions for the right reason, something amazing happens. The people who matter start to respect you deeply. My top performers, they love working for me because they know I'm going to make the tough decisions that create the right environment where this company can excel. My leadership trusts me because they know I'll do what's right for the business, not what's easy. You lose the respect of mediocre people, but you gain the respect of exceptional people, and exceptional people are the only ones that matter. When you're willing to make unpopular decisions, you get the results that other people can't achieve. We've grown from one auction to 4 auctions in 2 different states. We've grown from a $10 million in annual revenue all the way to $40 million in annual revenue. We've built a team of 300 employees who are obsessed with absolute excellence. None of that would have happened or would have been possible if I was trying to make everybody in this company happy. None of that would have happened or would have been possible if I was afraid of being disliked by everybody in the company. Here's what most people don't understand. When you make decisions based on what's right instead of what's popular, you build something that lasts forever. Companies that try to make everybody happy, those companies are just built on sand. The moment things get tough, they're gonna crumble because they don't have a foundation of strong, hard decision making. But when you build a culture of excellence, you're consistently making hard decisions, you're willing to be hated for doing the right thing, you'll build something that can weather any storm. So how would you develop this mindset? How would you become willing to be hated for doing the right thing? First, you have to be crystal clear on your values. what you stand for, what you're willing to fight for, what you're willing not to compromise. For me, discipline, consistency, hard work, never quitting, those aren't just words up on a wall. They're decision-making tools that I use every day. When I have to make a decision, I ask myself, what would someone with these values do? And then I do that exact thing, regardless how people will react. Practice small decisions. You don't start by firing your best friend. You start by making just a small unpopular decision, getting a little uncomfortable, and then feeling that discomfort in making a few of those decisions. Maybe it's implementing a new policy that everybody's not going to like. Maybe it's giving an honest feedback to somebody that doesn't want to hear it. Maybe it's saying no to a request that everybody expects you to approve. Every time you choose what's right over what's popular, you build a muscle in your brain for making bigger decisions. You need people around you who will tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable for you. You need advisors who care more about your success than your feelings. I've got mentors in my life that are willing to call me out when they think I'm being weak. I've got team members who are willing to challenge me on the decisions I'm making when they truly think I'm making the wrong one. But ultimately, the decision is mine, and I have to be willing to make it, even if everyone else disagrees. Here's my challenge to you. Stop trying to be liked. Start trying to be respected. Stop making decisions on what feels good. Start making the decisions on what makes great results and what's best for you and your company. If you want to be a great CEO, you have to be willing to be the villain in somebody else's story. You have to be willing to make that decision that may hurt people's feelings, but it helps the business overall. You have to be willing to fire people who aren't performing or meeting your standards that you set, even if they're nice. You have to be willing to implement changes that people resist, even if it creates a conflict day to day. You have to be willing to set standards that some people can't meet, even if they complain about it. Because here's the ultimate truth. A mediocre CEO tries to make everybody happy. Man, they just end up making no one happy. A great CEO focuses on doing what's right and ends up creating extraordinary results that everybody who matters gets to partake in. Here's the question. Are you willing to be hated for doing the right thing? Because if you're not, no matter what, you're never going to be great. If you are, there's no limit to what success you can achieve. Look, this isn't for everyone. Most people will watch this video and think, this guy's too harsh. This is too demanding. That's not the kind of leader I want to be. And that's fine. The world needs a bunch of followers. But if you're one of the few willing to embrace the brutal truth, if you're willing to be hated, if you're willing to do the right thing, if you're willing to sacrifice popularity for results, then you have what it takes to be great. Start today. Make one decision based on what's right instead of what's popular. Just see how that feels. Then see what happens, and then do it again tomorrow. If this resonated with you, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to continue to share the brutal truths that most people won't tell you about, what it really takes to work at the highest level and be a successful CEO. Remember, discipline, consistency, hard work, never quitting, but most importantly, you have to be willing to be hated to do the right thing. Let's stay consistent, stay successful, and embrace that brutal truth.